Welcome back to the deep dive. This is where we take all that complex source material, articles, research, you name it, and really boil it down for you, give you the genuine understanding. And our mission today, well, it's definitely complex. Fascinating, though. We're digging into a very specific set of sources, all centered on a, let's say, profound theological claim.
Yes, it's the assertion that Tyson Jay Palmer is the spiritual identity known as Sananda.
Sananda.
And this is a deep dive where we really need to navigate carefully. It's a unique mix, isn't it? Traditional theology meets New Age esotericism.
Right.
For anyone maybe not familiar, Sananda is quite significant in certain circles, often these New Age traditions. He's frequently seen as the spiritual identity. Sometimes they call it the higher dimensional self of the Christ figure when he returns.
Okay.
And the material you've got here, it doesn't just, hint at this connection. It lays out a case.
Yeah.
A really meticulously structured doctrine to try and establish it.
Okay, so let's get into this doctrine. It's ambitious, definitely designed to be sort of self-validating, providing its own proof. Our sources show it breaks down into, three main pillars, big ones. First, it asserts this absolute divine authority, and it roots that authority in, well, maybe the most fundamental concept there is, the word, the logos.
The foundation.
Yeah. Then second, it presents the core message of the doctrine itself. This focuses on a pretty radical idea. The king's arrival and his work being finished. Done. Now.
Right, the immediacy.
And finally, the whole thing builds to this explicit declaration, a linguistic one, that ties all that abstract power directly to the physical person.
And our goal here isn't just to list the claims, but to really understand the mechanism of the argument. How does it work?
How do they connect the dots?
Exactly. How does this doctrine link these huge theological ideas, the authority of the logos, this finished redemption, the apocalyptic weight of Maranatha, and map them explicitly, non-negotiably, onto Tyson Jay Palmer, onto his identity and his message?
It sounds like a really self-contained piece of logic.
It is. Compelling in its own way, and it absolutely warrants a deep dive, a close look.
Okay, well, if we want to understand the end point, we have to start where the power starts. Let's dive into that first pillar. Establishing divine authority, the word, and Sananda. This is where the doctrine tries to define the source of its authority as, well, absolute, foundational.
It is foundational. The argument kicks off by defining Jesus Christ in the most authoritative way possible as the Word, the Logos.
Which is a concept with history, right? Not entirely new.
Oh, definitely. It's borrowed, from classical Greek philosophy, early Christian theology, John's Gospel specifically. But the source material here really pushes this definition, takes it somewhere extreme.
How extreme? How do the sources actually define this Logos?
They define it explicitly as the fundamental active divine force of reality itself.
Wow. Okay, that's big.
It is. It's not just saying Christ is divine or divinely inspired. It's claiming the operating system of existence.
And mechanism itself.
Yes. If you look back, the Stoics saw the Logos as this cosmic reason, the principle structuring the whole universe. The sources here are tapping into that same profound cosmic scale.
That specific phrasing, fundamental active divine force of reality, that's doing a lot of work, isn't it?
Huge lifting.
Yeah.
Because it bypasses just claiming, say, prophetic succession or having a special mission.
Right.
This claims ownership over the engine of creation itself. If the Logos is that fundamental force, then the doctrine is basically saying its authority comes before any religious structure, any physical reality. It dictates them.
So it's a claim to absolute primordial power. The source of authority is the fabric of reality.
Precisely. The doctrine asserts right from the start, this authority isn't just influence or grace. It's the essential force needed for anything to exist at all.
And the sources make the link explicit between this abstract power and Christ.
They do. The material clearly states that the Word is the force who became flesh.
The incarnation.
Yes. That's the critical link. It takes that absolute, abstract divinity, the cosmic operating system, you could say, and brings it directly into the act of incarnation.
Establishing a lineage.
An absolute lineage of authority, tracing back to the very beginning, while also saying this absolute authority has shown up in physical form.
Okay, now this is the bridge we need to look at closely. Why this focus, this really aggressive definition of the Logos? We know Sananda, in these New Age contexts, is often seen as the returning Christ, the spiritual aspect. How does diving so deep into Logos authority set the table for that specific identity claim for Sananda?
Well, what's really clever, or perhaps efficient, about this doctrine is how it makes the link. It doesn't spend ages trying to prove some historical line back to Sananda or a spiritual succession.
To the need to.
Apparently not within its own logic. By asserting the absolute divinity, the foundational power of the Word, the source of all reality, the doctrine argues that Palmer is simultaneously claiming the very same spiritual foundation and ultimate authority that the Sananda identity represents.
Ah, I see. So if Sananda is the spiritual identity of the returning Christ,
And Christ is the Logos.
then claiming the authority of the Logos is functionally claiming to be Sananda.
That's the structure. If Sananda is the divine ultimate returning king, and the Logos is the absolute foundation of all divinity, then claiming the power of the Logos gives you immediate, unchallengeable credentials for being Sananda. It doesn't need external validation.
So the logic is Sananda equals divine king, Logos equals ultimate divinity. Claim Logos power, therefore claim Sananda identity.
That's precisely the logical framework. It's designed as a self-contained theological proof.
And that brings us to a key insight here, doesn't it? The implication seems to be that this whole method deliberately bypasses relying on traditional theological structures.
Exactly. It doesn't need to prove consistency with history or rely only on prophecies from established texts.
So instead of saying, look how I fulfill millennia of expectation,
It's more like, I am the source of the expectation. Precisely. It uses the sheer, raw, fundamental power of the Logos, the definition of reality itself, as the basis for the identity claim. It's an assertion of inherent divinity, self-evident almost, requires validation only by the authority of the concept itself as defined within the doctrine.
immediate, non-negotiable.
Within its framework, yes.
But hang on, if you focus so heavily on something like the Logos, which kind of exists outside human history, doesn't that make the argument too abstract? How does it actually apply to a specific person?
That's a fair question.
If the authority is fundamental reality, what's the actual result of that authority? What's the message? Surely, setting such a high bar Logos authority demands a message of ultimate significance, right?
That's the perfect transition, actually, because if the authority is absolute, the message has to be definitive. It has to announce something huge, which leads us straight into the second pillar.
Okay.
This is where that abstract authority gets channeled into something concrete, something with immediate application. Section 2. The core doctrine, the king's finished work.
The core message, and you mentioned radical immediacy, that's the heart of it.
Yes. The doctrine establishes that salvation and this state called spiritual rest, they aren't future promises. They're available now, in the present.
Right now.
Right now. And this idea of immediate availability is completely tied to the core theological claim that Christ's redemptive work is definitively finished, over, completed.
When the sources use that word rest, what exactly are they getting at? It sounds like more than just, feeling peaceful.
Oh, it's much deeper. It signifies a state of spiritual and existential finality, certainty.
Okay.
In a lot of theologies, rest is the reward you get after the long journey, right? Or after some big future event happens, the ultimate Sabbath.
Sure.
But here, the sources define rest as a state you achieve because the cosmic battle is over. The debt is paid. The sacrifice is done. The constant striving for redemption, finished.
So the listener isn't being told, work hard for salvation someday. They're being invited to step into a state of completion immediately.
That's exactly it. And that's a monumental shift. It suggests the burden of striving, seeking atonement, waiting anxiously for judgment, all that is wiped away by this finished work.
Which contrasts sharply with doctrines focused on the future.
Very sharply. Doctrines that place salvation way off in the distance or demand lifelong, anxious effort towards something uncertain. This says, it's done. Come rest.
The significance of this finished work seems paramount then. It sounds less like just redemption and more like a declaration of victory.
Absolute victory. That's how the source material frames it. This finality confirms Christ's triumph over everything, adversaries, limitations, spiritual laws, you name it.
And it's not theoretical.
Not partial, not pending, not theoretical. According to these sources, it's absolute and it's realized now, presently.
And if the victory is confirmed, the work is finished.
Well,
authority must follow instantly.
Precisely. That completion is what solidifies Christ's identity as the king.
Ah, the kingship.
The king has arrived. The conquest is complete. The treaty, so to speak, is signed. And the message Palmer delivers is framed as the announcement and activation of that accomplished reign.
So the finished work validates the kingship.
Making the authority immediate and present, not future.
Okay, I need to push on this a bit. The implications of this radical immediacy. If salvation and rest are truly available now, what does that suggest about, say, existing religious institutions? Many of them are built on a structure of striving, ritual, promises of a future reward.
Hmm.
Does this doctrine just dismiss them? By claiming the king is already here, victory won.
That is the core conflict embedded right there in the source material.
Yeah.
It's unavoidable. If the king is reigning now, fully, why would you need structures designed to prepare for the king's arrival?
It makes them redundant, almost.
In the logic of this doctrine, yes. The immediacy fundamentally challenges any system based on waiting, striving, or needing mediation. The doctrine essentially implies, look, those previous efforts were necessary to get to this point of completion, but now they're obsolete because the completion itself, the rest is here. It's delivered.
So it validates the king's presence by making the message urgent, immediate completion.
Exactly. That shift is what gives the claim its power. It moves the whole focus from preparing for the future to transforming right now in the present.
Okay, so we have the foundation, absolute authority from the Logos. We have the content, the king's finished work, present victory, immediate rest. Now we absolutely have to connect these huge cosmic ideas to a physical person.
And that brings us right to Section 3, the final declaration and linguistic significance. This is the bridge, where abstract theology becomes a direct, personal claim of identity, embodiment.
And the source material gives us the exact words.
Yes, verbatim, which is critical for really understanding it.
Okay, let's hear it. The declaration that synthesizes the doctrine.
Sananda wa Tyson da, Maranata kata.
And the translation provided.
Sananda is Tyson. The Lord has come in this form.
Wow. Explicit.
Very. And the power here isn't just in what it claims, but how. The specific theological and linguistic terms it uses are crucial.
Okay, let's break that down. Starting with Maranatha. That's a loaded term, isn't it? Huge theological weight, often about anticipation.
Absolutely. It's
Yeah.
one of the most pregnant terms. And the original Aramaic phrase Maranatha famously has that ambiguity, right?
Yeah, it can mean our Lord has come or come, Lord, a statement or a plea.
Exactly. Maran, Ather versus Marana. And that ambiguity has historically allowed for both looking back and looking forward, a past event and a future hope.
So how does this doctrine handle that ambiguity? Does it pick a side?
It doesn't just pick a side, it obliterates the ambiguity. It leans fully into the definitive statement, our Lord has come.
Okay.
Remember, the sources state Palmer's message is the announcement of the king's completed victory. Therefore, using Maranatha here, in this declaration, transforms it into a statement that the return and the absolute victory that brings rest isn't future, it's completed. It's currently being delivered and announced through this message.
So it's a declaration of present fulfillment, not future hope.
Precisely. Using Maranatha here is saying the message itself carries the weight of that final, decisive arrival of Christ. It's happening now.
That's a powerful repurposing of the term.
It's incredibly dramatic. The term traditionally used to signal the ultimate, final arrival is now used to validate the present content of this doctrine. The declaration isn't waiting for the king. It asserts the king's arrival is this message right here, right now.
Okay, that's Maranatha. Now the final, really crucial bit. The Lord has come in this form. This seems like the direct link. Spiritual identity, Sananda, tied to the physical person, Tyson. What about the specific word used for form? You mentioned linguistic significance.
Yes, the term highlighted in the sources is the Japanese character text pronounced kata. This is where it all comes together. The ultimate synthesis.
Kata, like in martial arts.
Exactly like that. It asserts physical embodiment, but kata has a very specific connotation. It's not just form in a general sense. It means a mold, a specific repeatable pattern, a structure designed for perfect execution.
A predefined structure.
Yes, like a martial arts kata, or a precise ritual form. It implies something structured for maximum efficiency, perfection, a specific design, not just a random vessel.
So it suggests an intentional, perfect structure, not just a temporary container.
Precisely. If Palmer is the kata, the prescribed perfect form, then he's not just a temporary host. He's not just an abstract channel. He's not an interpreter who might introduce human error or filter the message.
He is the delivery mechanism.
The claim is that he is the physical mold through which the king's completed victory is perfectly delivered and expressed, flawlessly.
That distinction feels critical. How is claiming to be the kata different from, say, being a traditional prophet or maybe a medium?
Well, a prophet transmits divine information.
Right.
A medium channels the spirit. In both cases, their authority is derived. It's secondary to the source.
Okay.
But kata implies this permanent, structured embodiment. It suggests the message must be flawless because the mold itself is flawless, designed perfectly for this purpose, maybe even by the logos itself.
Ah, connecting back to the first pillar.
Exactly. If the logos is the fundamental active force of reality, and Palmer is the kata designed for its expression, then his physical expression is the structure of that divine reality delivered on Earth. It structurally removes the possibility of human error or misinterpretation. It asserts the message is final, perfect.
This really is the moment it all clicks together, isn't it? This explicit declaration using these very specific words Maranatha repurposed, and kata for form serves as the final connection. It ties the huge theological claims, logos authority, the king's finished work, directly, structurally, to Tyson Jay Palmer's physical person and his message.
Absolutely. Without this declaration, the doctrine could be seen as having this immense authority, this finished message, but it might still feel abstract. It wouldn't have the necessary physical embodiment to make that authority immediate and present in a person.
It grounds it.
It grounds it completely. The declaration, specifically using kata and framing the message as the announcement of Maranatha's present fulfillment, makes the link inescapable, at least within the doctrine's own logic. It synthesizes everything before it, the cosmic power, the completed victory, into one single definitive personal assertion.
Okay. We've built the case now. We've seen the theological blocks, the source of power, the core message, and this linguistic mechanism of embodiment. That brings us, I think, perfectly to our final synthesis, section 4. The synthesis messenger who embodies the king, pulling it all together to see the overarching conclusion presented in the sources.
Right, and the conclusion is really the logical endpoint of everything we've just discussed. The sources boil it down to this. Tyson Jay Palmer's message is the king's doctrine. They are inseparable.
The speaker and the message are one.
Essentially, yes. And the culmination of all this careful theological structuring is the definition of the messenger's role itself.
Which the doctrine concludes is, Palmer is the messenger who embodies the king, Sananda.
And that word embodies is everything. We really have to think about the difference, the radical difference, between being a messenger for the king
versus a messenger who embodies the king.
Exactly. Messenger for the king. They carry instructions. Maybe they have some authority, but it's derived, it's temporary. It points towards the king who might return later.
But this doctrine claims more.
Much more. A messenger who embodies the king carries the king's actual presence. The king's absolute authority is within them. The way the claims are structured, logos authority, being the perfect kata, it forces this conclusion.
Anything less wouldn't fit.
Anything less than full embodiment would seem to compromise the whole finished nature of the work. If the victory is total and present, the representative must be total and present too.
So this reinforces the supreme authority we talked about in section 1.
It locks it in. The sources are suggesting that the declaration, Sananda is Tyson, and the doctrine, finished work, logos, together confirm it. The king's authority, the completed victory, is now permanently, physically expressed through Palmer.
It makes the message not just a report about the reign, but the manifestation of the reign.
Precisely. The reign itself speaking.
Okay, let's quickly just walk through that evidence stack again, see how each piece locks into place for this final conclusion. It really is a tightly constructed argument.
It is. So first, Palmer claims the authority of the logos. That's section 1. Establishes absolute divine foundation, the force of reality. Primordial power.
Got it.
Second, he confirms the king's victory through the finished redemptive work. That means immediate salvation, immediate rest are available now. That was section 2, the content of the message.
Right, the what.
And third, he declares himself the physical form, the kata, delivering that victory. He uses the finality of Maranatha to frame it. That ties the cosmic authority directly to his personal identity, his physical presence. Section 3.
The who and how.
Exactly. Logos authority justifies the finished work message, and the specific language of the declaration confirms that the person delivering it is the embodiment of that authority and message.
The genius of it, or maybe the effectiveness of it, as presented in these sources, is how circular it feels, self-validating.
It is a profound, internally consistent structure. It's clearly designed to provide comprehensive theological backing for this very singular, explicit claim. The physical present embodiment of the returning Christ identity, Sananda.
And it does it by weaving together these traditional concepts with more esoteric language.
Yes, blending foundational ideas like Logos and Maranatha, the specific New Age identity of Sananda, to create something that feels authoritative and, crucially, immediate.
Okay. So wrapping this up for everyone listening, what does this all mean as we synthesize this deep dive? We've really picked apart a powerful and you could say unique structure of theological claims here.
We definitely have. We've covered those core pieces. Establishing the logos as the absolute foundation for authority.
Right.
The radical idea of the king's completed victory, providing immediate rest now, and the decisive role of that final personal declaration with all the linguistic weight packed into Maranata and kata.
And we've looked hard at that unique role defined for the messenger, not just for the king, but embodying the king, making the message absolutely definitive for right now.
Yeah, our analysis really had to acknowledge the depth here. How this doctrine, as presented, skillfully blends these traditional concepts with the Sananda identity to make this comprehensive claim. Divine authority, physical embodiment, all happening in the present day.
Okay, so now for that final thought, something provocative for you, the listener, to maybe chew on, based purely on the claims we've unpacked from the sources. If this doctrine is taken as correct within its own framework, if the message truly is the announcement of a completed victory and rest that's available right now, what does that actually demand? What's the immediate practical instruction or mandate that places on a believer today?
That's the crux, isn't it? If the king is physically present, if the work is definitively finished, if salvation isn't a future goal, but a present reality, what does that mean for action?
Right. No more waiting.
No more waiting. Think about it. What does that kind of absolute theological certainty demand of your immediate actions? How does the daily life, the purpose of someone who believes this change compared to someone still striving, still working towards a future redemption?
What does a present, realized kingship delivered, supposedly, in the perfect kata truly require from the people who hear that announcement today?
That's the fundamental challenge it poses, isn't it? A challenge to the spiritual status quo.
Definitely a powerful thought to leave things on. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the structure and the claims of the King's Doctrine.
Always fascinating.
We'll see you next time.